Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Alpha Outdoor Specialties, home of the Stanfield Stool. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world-famous Andy Shaver.
No more sitting on buckets for me. I don't care if I'm the only one in the blind that doesn't have a bucket. I will be sitting on a Stanfield stool.
I sat on the one outside the other day, just sitting there looking at the weather when it was raining that one day out here, and I thought, this is sure beats the hell out of sitting on a fucking bucket would be.
Yes, sir.
Same deal. With us today from South Dakota, home of the sexiest governor in the country,
Whew.
Mr. Sean Weaver with MeatEater. How are you doing, Sean?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
She is a badass, your governor.
And a smoke show.
And a smoke show.
Yes.
She could be your next mommy.
Tell you what,
Have you had any dealings with
we
her?
were so lucky to not lock down. I've met her, but she's not like she would remember me or that I know her well or anything like that. But
I'll ask her if she knows you next time I talk to her.
I would like to get her on the
she
podcast.
was-
We've got a lot of mutual acquaintances. I don't know if it would happen or not, but we're a little risque for a governor.
yeah, and she's pretty poised, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to break her. I mean, not break her, but like get her to kind of open up a little bit. I think that'd be a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
She plays
I bet
everything
she's
pretty
got.
close to the
I bet
vest.
she's got a lot more personality than you think she was, and she'd go with a lot of things. Plus, she's governor of South Dakota. South Dakota people are like we are, so they don't want some stuck up, got to stick up their ass like Nancy Pelosi type. They like who they've got, so she can be herself.
Yeah.
Speaking of dumbasses in politics, did y'all see who chimed in on the January 6th insurrection shit? O.J. Simpson, of all people. We want to know what really happened.
So yeah, a lot of people can say that, OJ. What really happened, OJ?
Yeah, I thought of all people, he is tone deaf to what people think in the world.
Yeah,
Absolutely clueless.
he is. How are things up in South Dakota? Have we got the rain that we needed at the right time, or is it still fairly dire?
No, dude, we are sitting pretty.
Really?
We're sitting beautiful. Yeah, we went from, January, February, I was thinking, oh, we're going to get restricted or moderate seasons. We're going to go from the 60-day Mississippi Flyway season down to like 45 or 30. But golly, man, we got the rain. We got the late snow. Aberdeen, South Dakota here just about a week ago, maybe 9-10 days ago, got 7 inches of rain.
Ooh.
I mean, we're sitting like a lot of happy ducks swimming around.
Yeah, that snow. When was it? Was it February or March? That
Both,
late,
yeah.
that late snow. They said
Yeah,
it was
March mostly.
They said it had like higher moisture content in it, and it was a lot better for like if it had been a December snow where it would have been like powder and really dry. Kind of had some substance to it.
Yeah, and North Dakota got whatever it was, like 4 feet in one go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just saw somebody release some duck number. I didn't read the article, but somebody released some duck numbers.
I saw them yesterday,
Just
too.
yesterday.
Yeah, they come out.
Who was that? Wasn't the U.S. Fish and Wildlife? That was.
Was it Ducks Unlimited, maybe?
That was the state of North Dakota's own survey that Ducks Unlimited and I think Delta published it today, but Ducks Unlimited published yesterday.
Yeah.
We're back above long-term trends, so that's good.
I want to see with the Widgeons. That's what I want to see. We used to be widgeon capital
Yeah.
of the world,
And we ain't had any.
and
in
we
2 to
hadn't
3
had
years.
any widgeon in 2 or 3 years.
I mean, none. Like places that you would see them. When we had the big freeze in 2021 in February when it got so damn cold, our wheat fields had lots of widgeons on them after the season, but I was like, well, they're at least still here somewhere because we hadn't seen them anywhere. But we have big wheat country. Hell, we got one ranch, got 30,000 acres of wheat on it. There used to be widgeons on it all the time, and in 2 years, no widgeons at all. Absolutely crazy.
Have you guys been dry, or what do you think it is?
Oh, we've been dry, but I'll tell you what it's been. We ain't had no winter. There's been absolutely no winter south of Kansas in 2 years hardly, other than the big vortex that we had after the season was over. We've had no winter. We get a front in October, and you think, hell yeah, we're going to start having fronts, and then your next front is right at Christmas maybe, and then now when season ends, like January 30th for us, when season ends, you can count around January 27th or 28th to have a good front, and then all of February you'll have a north wind every 4 days. But that's what's killed us.
Oh man, that has been the story about the last 5 years too.
Yes,
is nothing until February, and now it seems winter is February to May instead of November to March.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at you posted a video of on your Facebook when that December front blew in, and you were like, from October to this, it's been hit or miss, and mostly miss.
Yeah. That last week of October to first week of December was the worst hunting I've ever had. I mean, I thought I forgot how to kill a duck. It was awful. But man, it really was. It was just weather. It was just nothing to move birds, nothing to change up stale birds, nothing to motivate them to feed. And then about second week of December on, we got red hot for a while.
How long did that last? What was the honeymoon period on that?
Through about second week of January. So
wow.
We had a solid month. That was just like really good.
Yeah.
But I mean, that wasn't all in South Dakota,
Right. Now, were you filming during this dip, during the lull and the tough times? So were you filming the whole time?
Oh yeah. And yeah, so Duck Lore season 1 has already came out. The MeatEater waterfowl series I was producing last year is called Duck Lore. And season 1 was a lot of that lull.
Ooh.
We had it was rough. I mean, awful hunting in Michigan, Kansas, Washington. It looks like, season 1 kind of would insinuate I don't know a thing about duck hunting. But season 2 is kind of when things picked up. And season 2 comes out this summer, not to get into that. But in July, the next round of episodes comes out, and there's when the hunting actually gets good again.
So y'all split up. So Duck Lore season 2, it's all or Duck Lore, it's all one season, but you've chopped it up into different seasons. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was. It's kind of a function of just what made sense for releasing the episodes with all the other different series we have going on at MeatEater. But
yeah, so
we're releasing, at least a video a week. So
a video a week of just everything that is at MeatEater, or just the. Is that what you mean? You're
of everything that it's at MeatEater. Yeah.
So one episode a week. Yeah, that sucks because the cameras are rolling and everything's set up, and you wait all year, and then it's just like, what the fuck?
So
this hunting is ridiculous.
But that's the real deal that real hunters understand. We've got a series coming out starting next month from here, and we're going to have some days it wasn't the best days either. But that's the reality of being in the hunting business or hunting a lot. If you go out and you used to hunt and you shoot every freaking day, and you say I should limit every day, you're either hunting on a place that there's no pressure on but you, and you've got it fixed up just for that, or you're not hunting very often. Because if you hunt every day, you're going to have bad days and good days. I don't give a shit where you are.
Yeah.
Man, and that's kind of a pendulum. I think we saw swing in the waterfowl space as a whole, right? Where I always like to reference Avian X season 1, where Fred is going on public, dragging his boat to random places when it's getting hot. And that was relatable for people because it was just going on a whim. And then we saw this kind of big swing in waterfowl content towards like always having perfect, awesome hunts. And I think that, you know, it leaves out the thing that people want ultimately, which is to see you do it how they do it, to see you go through the same stuff they do. And they know it's full of shit if it's perfect hunting every time. So, you know, that was definitely what I like hearing that you guys are doing the same thing with your series, because that was what we wanted to do with Duck Lore, was make it real waterfowl hunting.
Well, for a long time, people treated their audience like they were retards, you know, and just, oh, yeah, look at me. Every day I go out and I shoot 2 boxes of shells. And people are not that naive to believe that one individual is only going to rake them up every day. But
it also gets old just watching birds fall.
Yes.
You want to see more. I mean,
there's no substance to that. That's like looking at a hot chick on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing behind that. Like, you're going to get my like, don't get me wrong, I'm going to double tap it, but you scratch below the surface and that's it. I'll tell you something on deer hunting deals I never do that, and it's always bothered me. I'm not a deer hunter, but I enjoy watching the guys do the deer hunting videos. Really?
To a degree. Also, though, after they shoot the deer, I want to know what the deer scored. They never ever say what the deer scored, and that drives me freaking nuts. Because that's what I want to see. I want to say, oh, it scored 132. It scored 178. That's one of the few things on the deer hunting videos I want to see. I do not like seeing an animal suffer. And I know from being in the hunting business, people think, well, that's kind of real. Well, that's, you know, you're being a hypocrite. I don't like seeing animals suffer, and I hate seeing an animal flop around, whether it's a pig, a deer, whatever it is. I want shoot, the deer falls, and that's the end of it, and then show it after you've got it and its tongue hanging out. I don't mind that. But tell me what that deer scores. So when I watch a waterfowl stuff, I like seeing behind-the-scenes stuff of anything. That's why reality shows like Alone and all them shows are so popular. People like seeing how people get things done. They don't just want to see a guy, he won, he stayed out there for 73 days by himself. They want to see the suffering. They want to see everything that goes into that part of the deal. So when you see a waterfowl video and all you see is birds come flying in, everybody shoots, boom, 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 and 72 deer or ducks fall, nobody cares about seeing that. They want to see all the work that went into it. They want to see all the suffering and all that stuff that went with that goal that they achieved, I think, personally.
Well, you know, part of that is like to get into kind of storytelling mechanisms, right? When you go watch a movie, if you know the ending before you watch the movie every time, it doesn't make it interesting.
No, not at all.
The whole point is that there has to be a question of if the hero, you know, it's the hero's journey, right? Will he accomplish his goal or not? Well, if every single time they watch your show, they know you're going to crush birds, you've taken away the most important part of storytelling, which is like leaving something up to the audience to wonder, to hope for, etc. And I think waterfowl content got that wrong for a lot of years.
Well, and then you don't relate to your audience at all. You know, there's an interesting story. So when Superman came out, Superman was really, really popular. But Superman, the comic book, went through a lull. And you want to know why? Nothing can kill Superman. So every comic book was the exact same. Everybody's like, well, fuck it. I mean, nothing can kill the guy.
That makes sense.
That's a real good point.
So Superman, really good point. One of the biggest franchises ever, took a dip because nobody could relate and everybody knew how Superman was going to end. So they had to introduce a way for Superman to be mortal and to be like a person.
Do you think that's why Batman's more popular, because it's more of a human element to it?
It might be. I don't know. And I don't know if Batman's more popular, but I know
think
that
Batman's a whole lot more popular than Superman is.
I do know that about Superman. Superman
People love a good vigilante too.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Another thing, you two guys have seen it. Y'all have shot it. Y'all have been there for a lot of times. Is there a pile pick out there that's going to impress you? No.
No.
No, that's what I'm saying. It don't matter. I enjoy more of the pile picks when they got an old antique truck or they got the American flag up or when they had Trump 2020 or whatever. That was more impressive to me. You could put someone could kill 1,800 snow geese tomorrow and pile that up, and I wouldn't get nothing out of it. I wouldn't even look at it. But you can take a picture of a kid with a gun or a dog, and then people love that kind of stuff. The piles do not impress people. It might be impressive you do it.
Not anymore, right?
No, not at all. It's not. It's a whole different time now. People want more of the reality of what's going on. People that waterfowl hunt, there are guys out there that kill a lot of birds. There's a lot of guys that struggle, but they have a passion for hunting. They just like to see what goes into it. They want to try to learn something. They love that aspect of it more than just seeing a big pile of birds.
Right.
Like you can go to. Are they done hunting in Canada now? Or are they still shooting snow geese?
They're done.
They're finally done.
Yeah, they've been done for a couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks. It's middle of June now, and they're done. And they're going to start back up shooting geese in August. What?
In North Dakota.
North Dakota in what? 10 weeks?
Approximately.
That's absolutely. That's crazy to think about that. But in 10 weeks, waterfowl season starts again.
It is pretty wild that you can really hunt waterfowl if you want to. You can hunt them for 10 months a year.
Yeah.
Well, if you got money, you can hunt them 12 months a year because you can go down to South America right now.
Ramsey Russell's in South America, I think, right now.
Yeah.
Shooting ducks. Did you do any of the Canada snow goose hunting, or did you end it at a reasonable time?
No, I have not. Yeah, I ended in March.
You did?
I haven't. I haven't gone to Canada in a couple years.
Even March, I'm like, whew. Because I switched to turkey season. Turkey season starts 1st of April here, so that's where my brain goes after waterfowl season. But do you do any turkey hunting, or are you just the waterfowl guy?
I shot a turkey this year
in South Dakota.
Yeah, yep.
Is that on camera? Or
those
is that
are reintroduced birds here. No, that's not on camera. That was just me out doing my own thing.
What do you mean?
As far as anything on camera, it'll all be on only waterfowl. If it means me on camera,
they're reintroduced birds. What does that mean? That your population was so low?
Well, like South Dakota's, where I was hunting turkeys in South Dakota, are introduced Rios. They got planted there by the NWTF.
Oh.
And there's a lot of them. I mean, they've been there for a long time now, but it's pretty cool. It's not like I wasn't hunting the Merriams out in the Black Hills that everyone thinks of when they think of South Dakota.
So they I did not know that the NWTF took a bunch of Rios up there and introduced them into South Dakota. Or is there a section of South Dakota where their Merriams and Rios kind of cross and you get this hybrid bird, or are they pretty well separate?
Yeah. No, along the Missouri River there gets to be some of that. Yep.
I wonder what that looks like, because Merriams have the white tips, right? And Rios have the ivory. I wonder what that bird looks like.
It honestly, it looks like a Merriam's that's got just a little bit of a creamy color to the tips.
Oh, really? Now, I've never hunted. Have you hunted Merriams ever?
Yep.
How do they compare to Rios?
They're a different bird, man.
Really?
Oh, they're so different. One time we were filming turkeys out in western Nebraska one time, Merriams. And those Merriams, they love to walk. They just walk and walk and walk. They were hiking up. So there's cottonwood down in this kind of river bottom that they're roosting in. When they would fly down, they would go walk up this pretty much a bluff. That was, I don't know, probably 500-foot tall, like butte looking thing. They would walk up on top of that, walk all the way across it, come down the other side, then come back to the same roost tree every night. Altogether, it was almost an 8-mile trek that they would do every day.
Yeah.
Just a round trip. So, yeah, you want to get on those Merriams. They walk a long ways.
So what's the secret? Just figure out, I mean, do they walk pretty well the same path every day? So you could be at the 4-mile mark and like, okay, they're going to turn around about right here.
Well, on those ones, yeah, because they didn't have much for roost tree options. But then you go to the Black Hills where they have endless roost tree options. I mean, Max Barta, that runs a camera with me, has worked with me for a lot of years. He loves doing that. And golly, I think he hiked 21 miles one day. Whew. I know it was over 18 miles chasing turkeys.
Jeez. I can't remember. How far did I say I walked that day?
13.
I walked 13. So our turkey season
was a lot of walking.
Our turkey season was terrible here this last year. And we had the guys from Pacific Calls down here. They had a turkey series come out this May, I guess, and they were hunting out here. And we get out the first day and don't hear a gobble. We saw birds the night before, and they do not gobble. So set those guys down, and one of our guides was here for the weekend, and I said, I'm just going to go listen. And I walked from one end of the ranch, and then I met them around kind of where they were hunting. But all told, that day I walked 13 miles, and we didn't shoot a bird till the next day.
That's some moving.
Yeah, and I didn't. The coolest part of the walk, didn't hear any gobbling. I heard hens yelping, but there was this path, and I saw a coyote run to one side, and I could tell he wasn't running from me. He looked like he was doing. His ears were up, and he had a different posture, and I could just tell that he was after something. And I had been hearing a hen yelping. I'm like, this motherfucker's about to jump on this hen. So I kind of get a little trot in my walk, and then all of a sudden I hear a pig squealing. So I guess there was mama and baby pigs, and that coyote jumped on a baby pig. So I walk up on it. Coyote lets it go. Well, now mama pig sees me, and she starts like huffing at me. She's got her ears up, and she just kind of starts trotting to me, and I'm like, listen, lady, I saved your piglet. I'm the good guy here. And
interesting.
She starts like trotting at me, and I'm like, oh shit. But I carry a snake stick, and it's got a blade on one end, and it's got a big long handle, and it's about 4.5 feet, 5 feet tall. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, because our trees here are tiny. They're mesquite trees, so like she can go up it with me. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna knock the shit out of her with this blade, and I'm gonna kick her, and I'm gonna get in this tree as fast as I can. Luckily, she got about 20 yards away and then got her piglets in. But even then, like when it was all over, I kept hearing her she was like trailing me. I was on the path, and she was in the woods with her pigs, but I could hear her. And I didn't like it.
No. Pig trailing you?
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
I've never seen it before. I mean, I've never had a defensive mean pig after me.
I've only known one person that's
Was she kind of a bigger sow?
Yeah. She was a mature sow. She was probably 200 pounds, and she had, I think, three piglets with her.
She'd have whooped your ass.
I'd have hit that bitch right in the snout.
I've never known anybody to ever be attacked by. I hear about that all the time. Oh, do you worry about the pigs getting you? I've never even worried about that. The only time I know anyone's ever even had an encounter is another outfitter guy used to guide hunts, was walking back to his truck parked the truck and was walking back the spread, and he was walking through some brush, and a pig had been run over, and that sucker had a broke leg and stuff, and he walked up on it, and it jumped at him, and the tusk caught him in the leg and ripped him all down his leg, and it screwed him up pretty bad because he got a bad infection out of it. But that's the only person I've ever known.
It was close to his femoral artery.
Yeah,
too.
he's lucky it didn't kill him.
But they said what it did is, so her tusk went into his leg, and then like it did a sweeping motion, so it separated the skin from the muscle, like a foot around, basically. So there was a puncture wound, but like 6 or 7 inches around that puncture wound, all around it in a perfect circle. It separated skin from muscle, and then they sutured him up. And then he got a real bad infection there, and he's lucky he didn't lose his leg to that infection. That's the only thing it was him and me. The only time we got a pig with a bad attitude.
Did you have a gun with?
Me?
You didn't have a gun with you?
No, I only had that stick.
You only had that snake stick?
I only had the snake stick because I was just listening for turkeys. I didn't think I needed anything.
Crawl up one of them big old mesquite trees we got around here that'll get your ass bit.
Yeah, that would have been my luck. I'd have picked the one mesquite tree that couldn't hold me, and I'd have fallen. The mesquite tree would have fallen, and I'd have just landed on top of the bitch. That would have been my luck. But I mean, you deal with mountain lions and stuff up there, don't you? Bears and shit when you go to Montana.
Yeah, in Montana, you definitely are always thinking about bears. I mean, I've never had any experiences with them, but it's always in the back of your mind for sure.
What about how far do you have to go for wolves? I know wolves are in Canada. I guess Wyoming, where Yellowstone.
Oh no,
is?
They're everywhere.
Yeah, there's wolves in parts of Montana and Wyoming right now for sure, but you don't really. Heck, we've had 2 wolves get killed in eastern South Dakota the last couple of years during coyote hunting contests.
Oh,
that's good for them.
Guys calling in wolves.
No, thank you.
Good for them. Kill them all.
Dude, though I remember the first time it happened, and I thought, I'd seen it on a Facebook post, and I just thought it was like one of those fake. I just thought it was like bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Someone was out there spreading crazy information. Nope, turns out like northeast South Dakota wolf killed. That was probably, I don't know, 4 years ago or something. And then I think it was this last winter, another one got killed up in the same area.
What'd they do to the old boys? They find the shit out of them?
No, because I think they, if I remember right, they were able to, I don't know. There was something about it where they said that it was, that they, I can't even remember, honestly. They didn't find them. I know that they said it was something like because they're not native there, they thought it was a coyote, so it was an honest mistake or something to that effect.
See, there's not an open season or a closed season on them, so it probably didn't matter. I'm going to tell you right now, if I lived in North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Colorado, wherever they have wolves, Minnesota, Wisconsin, I'd open the season up and kill every one of them bastards. They are wiping out the deer, the elk, Rocky Mountain, the bighorn sheep, everything. They're no good for nothing.
Jeff Stanfield.
They're not.
They're probably good for something.
They're about as useless. They're about as we need them about like we need mosquitoes.
So you would just wipe out
the whole fucking thing. What good do they do?
Goodness, Jeff.
Sean, what good does a wolf do?
I think it's more, I don't know if I would ever have an argument for like good that they do other than I do think it's cool to think about our environment getting back to a somewhat natural state, but also I do think that people need to keep in mind what brings dollars to conservation is ungulate populations, right? Elk, deer, etc.,
yes.
Moose. So it's a balance for sure. I think it'd be cool as hell to see a wolf out in the wild, but I don't think we should just let their numbers run unchecked and wipe out deer populations either. I think they should be managed just like any other game animal, right?
If we get wolves in Texas again, and they're doing what they did in Minnesota and all them places that they're wiping out that shit, it ain't gonna happen in Texas. We'll kill the shit out of them. But the difference is we won't go post pictures about it. You'll just guy will shoot every time he sees one. He'll shoot one and let it lay out there, and not say nothing. And they're not going to do nothing here because it would wipe out a whole industry and all your deer. We need predators. Let me get back before someone gets all butthurt over this on the deal. I understand the reason of having predators. I do. But even back in the day, it wasn't like it is now. They're running loose and crazy. You got now it's also the cattle and stuff. I'm sure they wipe out cattle herds. I saw a picture of I think it was a cattle operation, and some wolves killed 11 cows overnight, or steers, whatever it was. And they ate the ass out of about 3 of them, and the other ones were just dead laying there.
So
they're not. It's just not good.
I'm like you, Sean. I think that we should have, like you said, a natural state of how we were years ago. Now,
go to Yellowstone.
But they're saying that the willows and the aspens are there's more trees in Yellowstone now because there's not as many elk destroying these plants, and that's because of the wolves.
So kill the wolves. See?
Huh?
So we're back to killing wolves then, right?
No, listen, the trees are doing better now because the elk population is down.
Oh, so they want more trees.
It depends on what you want. If you want more trees, you need more wolves.
I'm assuming where you live at, Sean, you've heard a wolf howl in the middle of the night.
When I've been in Wyoming, I have before, but not in South Dakota, no.
I was in Minnesota one time in the Boundary Waters, and we had a fucking wolf come within 2 feet of our tent, it sounded like. I'm sure he was a quarter of a mile away, but it sounded like he was trying to crawl in the tent with us. I don't ever need to hear that again in my life.
Really?
It was enough. I'm thinking, I'm the second fattest guy in this camp. He's going to come for me second.
Well, I'm like, you're just in a tent. Like, if he wants to come through that door, Ain't much stopping them.
But it was it'd make your hair stand up for sure.
Who was it? We had somebody on, and
Isn't it?
Go ahead, Sean.
Well, isn't part of it too, just in general, when you don't have an open season on things, they get bold, right? Like you're seeing that in New Jersey with their black bear population like they have a ton of black bears and they're in town now because the governor in New Jersey suspended their black bear season. I think very quickly, if you had a open season, not wiping them out, but if you actually had just wolf hunting and grizzly bear hunting or whatever it is, whatever predator hunting it is you need in these certain places, pretty quickly they retreat back into the wilderness and get away from urban areas and away from people.
Mm-hmm.
Very quickly.
When you put
it's
pressure,
that they're bold because they're not getting shot.
Well, and when this population blows up, they have to expand. There's not enough resources where they were, so they have to go into the cities to find resources that they need. Plus, and like you said, you're going to kill all the brave ones, and you're only going to be left with the ones that are willing to retreat into the woods and are willing to not live on jelly donuts that they find.
Anything that goes unchecked gets out of control.
Yes.
In the whole world. Look at Chicago right now. Perfect example. And all big cities are that way right now. Same with wilderness. I mean, those bears, you keep reading more and more about people, those nuisance bears in New Jersey, and they don't do nothing about them. And I don't understand. Same with the mountain lions in Los Angeles. How many people got to get eaten up with a mountain lion before they say, you know what, we need to start shooting some of these? There are people like, oh, look at that poor
is a wild one that they don't want a hunting season on California mountain lions, and then they want to hire government agents to shoot them. Yeah. It's like, well, the answer here is to get hunting license sales and kill mountain lions with hunters.
Yeah. Instead, they're gonna, like you said, they're gonna start this new organization that's gonna go out and, I mean, like, people can't even go on the walking trails in L.A. because there's mountain lions everywhere. They just eat your ass.
Some of those videos of how bold some of those mountain lions get, especially those young cats, it's wild. Those are some scary videos, man.
Mountain lions scare me. And we had a guide from Colorado here for a long time, and he guided elk hunts in Colorado. And he would talk, you're not going to see a mountain lion before it attacks you. Like, you're just going to be on the ground, and it's going to have your fucking neck. But they would look for the tails in the trees, I guess, is how they would spot them. He was like, I don't give a shit about a black bear. He's like, I've been nose to nose with black bear before. I went one way, it went the other, because it scared the shit out of both of us. But a mountain lion, he said, that's what scares me, because you don't know that it's coming.
I've never even seen a mountain lion when I was hunting.
No,
but if I had to hear one squall like they do, it would scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, no kidding, dude.
I mean,
that is a wild sound they've got.
When I was a little kid growing up in Wichita Falls, I was probably 7, 8 years old. We had woods behind our house. Now, when I say woods, it's not like woods like where y'all think of. It's just a mesquite pasture. Andy knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But they heard a lady screaming in the middle of the night. Someone was calling the cops, and the cops came. It was 2 or 3 different times. And they figured what it was probably a mountain lion that was somewhere around there, but it sounded like a woman screaming that someone was killing her.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard people say that about. I've never heard a mountain lion, but they say they've got an ungodly scream to them. So,
one time I swore I heard one in northwest Iowa. That's where a lot of my family is from. I swore high and low that I'd heard one, and out in kind of timber pasture behind, on some family property. I swore I heard one, and then it wasn't that long later. I don't remember exactly, maybe a couple months or a couple weeks or something like that, that they had a mountain lion in a tree in a lady's backyard in a town called Sanborn, Iowa. And she had gone to let her dog out to go to the bathroom and heard this mountain lion up in a tree in her backyard.
Jeez.
In town.
Did it eat the dog?
No, it just sat there.
Did you see the video of the toddler that was running out to hug a black bear?
Huh?
Yeah.
No.
It was like a 2 or 3. It was like a 2 or 3 year old walks out the back door, and you just see the bear, and then you see the toddler like running with its arms wide open, And luckily, the mom, I guess, saw what was going on, and she sprints and gets that baby like 10 yards before it's going to hug the black bear. It's craziest thing ever.
Too much Winnie the Pooh.
Too much Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, my God.
Too much Disney.
You know how bad that could have been?
That's where. Have you seen the video of the orangutan?
Oh,
the
yeah.
orangutan?
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah, grabbing that dude.
That dude is screaming. Holy shit, he's scared to death. And that thing was fixing to bite his foot when he finally got away from it. You need to
It's wild how calm those things are too as they pull him in. It's
No
just
shit.
brute
No emotion.
strength,
methodical.
You know? It's just like,
No.
oh yeah, it's just pure muscle.
And I can't believe I want to get whatever shirt that guy has because that son bitch did not rip. Had it been one of my cheap ass shirts, like it'd be in pieces.
You'd be happy as hell it ripped too.
Oh fuck yeah! Like, but you know that would have been the day I wore something that doesn't have any give to it. But it's just the craziest thing, and like he can use his feet as hands, so like he's got his arms around him, but then like he's grabbing the guy that's trying to help him, and he puts his foot on his lower calf, and then that's holding him. It's wild, but like you said. There's no emotion on that orangutan's face. Just, I've got to grab this guy and I'm going to eat his fucking
What do you think
face.
you want to do with him?
Eat him.
Are they supposed to be a violent creature? Because the ones I see they're trained. I mean, hell, Clint Eastwood made $1 million with one in a movie with him way before you guys' time. But it was Clyde. He used to knock people out.
I mean, it just takes the wrong one.
Yeah, I don't think. I think that's the take. I think most of the time they're docile, kind animals. But honestly, you go put a human in a cage like that for that long, we're probably going to start pulling a guy's shirts too.
Yeah.
And you know those kids fuck with him all the time, throw peanuts and shit at him all the time. He's like, one day at the Fort Worth Zoo used to have some monkeys, and people would be just being people. And those monkeys, they get people all excited, and they start doing flips and shit, and they get a crowd, and then they pick up their shit and throw it in the crowd at people. And then the people disperse, and 30 minutes later, they start doing shit again, and people run up there again, and they pick up shit and throw at them. Like, yeah, they're showing the people who's the boss is.
But that just tells you how strong those animals are. Like, he had, for a split second, all he had that guy by was his shirt. His shirt was the only thing he had him by. And he pulled him to his cage and got another arm around his leg. Like, no you are not going, like, there's not a human alive that could grab a full-grown man and only have him by his shirt for 5 or 10 seconds and just work him straight to the cage.
Yep.
And then grab him with his other leg. And, I mean, he was in a world of hurt had he not had a buddy there.
That dude.
And then then the guy tried to help him, that fucking monkey, like.
Grabbing at him, too.
Grabbing at him, and then, like, he never lost control of the one guy.
You're on your own, JoJo.
Well, I mean, really, they've got 4 arms in that situation. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is.
And strong as hell.
And teeth.
Strong.
And teeth. Settle down, all. It was Tony walking in. Yeah, that video scared me. But you don't fuck around with monkeys because they'll take your scalp off, which we've seen before.
There was one other crazy video I saw last week floating around of a 17-year-old girl goes in California. There's a bear, mama bear and her cub on like a wall, a property fence wall made of brick. And her dogs are like barking at this bear and under this bear, and this bear swiping at the dogs. And this 17-year-old girl comes running out of the house and pushes this full-grown bear off the wall to grab her dogs and run back into the house. Yes.
Oh, I saw that shit. I saw that. The bear was climbing.
God.
It was like an adobe wall. And the bear was up on it.
Adobe wall,
yeah, she's going to beat the shit out of that old bear.
That woman, what? That
lady? That lady.
17 years old?
I didn't know how old she was, but...
17-year-old girl goes and pushes this bear off an adobe wall and then grabs her dogs and runs inside. And they're little yippy dogs, She's like, there's 4 of them, grabs them all in her arms and runs inside. Unbelievable.
I've got to watch that. The one video that I saw that frightened me like the orangutan, a guy was doing he was diving off of cliffs into the ocean, and he's got a GoPro, and he jumps off of the cliff, and he goes underwater. There's a fucking great white shark that he basically jumps on.
Nope.
He goes underwater, and the shark emerges as he's swimming like hell to get back up to the surface.
If that shark wanted him,
The only thing,
yeah,
the only thing that seems like more ruthless and like just a senseless killer than cats is fish.
yes, yeah.
Count me out on fish.
Yeah, they're stone cold killers too. Have you seen the video of the porpoise, the dolphin flipper, and the killer whales? And it shows this dolphin kind of jumping these people on their boat, and they're like, "Oh, there he is, there he is!" And that some bitch jumps up, and about the time he jumps up, this fucking orca comes flying at him, look like middle linebacker, look like a Ray Lewis,
hits him.
and hits that dolphin in midair. And that some bitch does about 3 or 4 times. That's the way they hunt.
Really?
And that killer whale, I'm gonna tell you something. That killer whale got some height. He jumped and he was out of the air 3 times. It's an amazing video. But here comes old porpoise just just minding his own business, and out of nowhere here comes that orca boy and hits him. And that's the way they hunt them.
It's like Ron said, there's nothing in that ocean that dies of old age.
No, though, orcas have never. There's never been a written down account of an orca ever killing a human being.
I did not know that.
I didn't either, but they do not. They don't want to eat human flesh, I guess.
In the wild, you mean?
In the wild. I'm sure one in SeaWorld something's ate some bitch.
All the time.
But,
yeah,
not
that
all the
was
time.
that. Well, there was that documentary called, oh, God dang it, Blackfish or whatever it was.
But
about a orca that was killing people in captivity.
He wanted out.
Oh, yeah.
But they've never had one in the wild that's ever attacked anybody. Andy's going to be swimming with them in Seattle.
Are you?
Aren't you going to get in the water with them?
With what?
With orcas.
Why the hell would I do that, Jeff?
Your kids are going to go swimming in the water.
I would love that. I want to see, Andy, I want to see photos of you swimming around with orcas.
No, it's not going to happen. I don't
see you on a documentary about the first guy ever gets
eaten
up by
eaten in the wild. I'm trying to find the name of this. Tillicum was the SeaWorld orca Tillicum that killed Trainer. Oh, Tillicum's dead. Kind of like Harambe.
They're not. SeaWorld's not adding any more new animals, are they?
I don't think so. I don't know.
As they shouldn't. That's a pretty gross practice.
Yes. Yeah, you take this.
I am not a fan.
I watched Free Willy with my grandkids the other day. First time I ever seen it was in the last 6 months. We got on this kick. Free Willy 1, Free Willy 2. I think they have 17 fucking Free Willys out there. But anyways, when you watch it, you really, it's not something that, animals in captivity just don't do it.
Especially that orca is it's not like you're taking Nemo out of the wild. Like you're taking a predator that, I mean, what's the range on an orca? They have migration and stuff. I mean, they start at one end of the coast and they go all the way down, and then all of a sudden you're going to put them into a tank that's how big is a tank? 100
Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Yeah.
Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Yeah,
it's gross.
Nothing. And like you can see how way back in the day when they had the traveling circus and whatnot, there was no other way for people to see and even know these animals existed other than the circus coming through town on the railroad. But now we have Planet Earth. Like go watch some of these awesome documentaries in Discovery Channel. It's a heck of a lot better than seeing an orca in a pool with a curled over fin because he's hating life.
Right.
Like,
I didn't even know that curled over fin was a deal.
Yeah.
I did not know that until...
They don't curl over in the wild.
Yeah, because they're happy.
Right.
And I did not know that, though.
Fin.
I did not know that until I watched that show. We were at a hunting show years and years ago in Shreveport, Louisiana, and the guy had a pet grizzly bear. Yep. If you could make it a pet, but he did in this big steel cage bars.
He was the bear, the Edge. It's got Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin. It's a good show.
Kim Basinger's good show.
Very, very good. It's called The Edge, but he was the bear in The Edge, and he was the bear in a couple other big time shows.
His name was Brody. I think
Brody
he was in
the
a
bear.
Dodge Ram commercials too.
Yep.
But this guy brung it out there, and he that bear to open his mouth. He put his head in his mouth and stuff. And there was someone there from PETA, and they were pissed off because he was there. And he's like, "Listen," he called him out too. The PETA people. He said, "I know. I see you down there. So let me tell you something." He said, "If this bear wants to kill me, the bear could kill me in a heartbeat." But it's a big old stanky ass bear.
But he was talking about like they'd bribe it with chicken to open its mouth. They'd get raw chicken and then like hold it, wave it in front of its face, and the bear would like open its mouth. And he said in the movies they dub in the roar. But I think they give it green apples to make it kind of froth at the mouth and give it that that wild,
interesting,
visceral, just hunting machine. But yeah, green apples.
Makes it all like salivate.
Makes it, yeah, just kind of gives it that frothy look, so that when it opens its mouth, it just and
interesting.
And then like he showed how he get it to like fake swipe at them and stand up. It was interesting, but. I'm not doing it. So how did the MeatEater thing all come about? Last time we talked to you, you were kind of doing your own thing, and then like right after, it feels like you signed on with MeatEater. How'd that all come about?
Yeah, so I was running that production company of mine for quite a few years. I was producing The Grind, had a bunch of other freelance work I was doing. And I met Steve, the founder, Steve Rinella, the host of MeatEater. I met him on a photo shoot out in Oregon. It was like a wild game cooking event, pretty much. And he was cooking all this different wild game, from octopus to goose to mule deer. And anyway, I was the photographer on that. And when it was all said and done, we sat down and we were just chatting kind of afterwards. Everyone's kind of idling down, and him and I sat there talking duck hunting for 2 hours, and became buddies, kept in touch. Then he came and hunted with me in South Dakota for an episode of his Netflix show. And then, yeah, pretty much one day he called and said, "Hey, we want to start doing waterfowl content. Do you want to run it? Do you want to do it?" So
that's how it happened.
It was it was kind of a serendipity deal, right? Luck of the draw. It's one of those deals where you work enough and put yourself in the right situations. I'll be the first to say I got real lucky, but you seem to get luckier the harder you work, right?
Yeah, well, what's the old saying? Luck is when hard work and opportunity meet.
Yeah.
I think it's something along. I probably butchered it, but it's something along.
No, I think that's right.
But I mean, you're incredibly talented. Was it weird going from the behind the scenes and I'm in a booth or I'm in a room and I'm putting these shows together to now you're the face of duck lore? Was that a weird transition, or is it something you kind of fell into naturally?
I mean, it took some work for sure. It's not just instinctual to get in front of a camera and be yourself and be normal. And I'm still working on that. It's definitely, Steve said at one time, he says, nobody is themselves when there's a camera on them. It's just whether the person they become is good on camera or bad on camera.
I like
right?
that. Yeah.
Because you can be real close to yourself, but
right.
you aren't just purely you.
Yeah.
And that was definitely a little bit of a curve for me. If let's say I was trying to make something that wasn't freelance waterfowl hunting related at all, and I was trying to just go be an actor, I would have sucked. It would have been awful. The fact that it's just me talking about stuff I give a shit about, talking about duck hunting and stuff, makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, it is
for sure.
I noticed that when we filmed our series, you try to. The one good thing is we got a lot of kind of behind the scenes stuff, and you kind of forget that the camera's there. But like the interviews and stuff, it's terrible because you're just like, oh my god, I sound like an asshole. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what you say, like you just sound like an asshole in the interviews. So,
recording voiceover for me is, it's like, okay, well, that's not how I talk. I'm trying to sound normal, but ultimately it's not the same.
Yeah. I watched.
It's just not.
Last night, wife and kids are out of town, so I watched the Anthony Bourdain. They did like a documentary on him. It's on HBO Max. And when his show first started, he had people writing his voiceover stuff. And it was awful, they said. Like, it was, you could just tell with him reading it, it wasn't in his flow and his mannerisms and nuances. So he would change. It started out, he'd change a couple words, and then he would change a couple sentences. And then by the end of it, he would just fucking crumple it up into a ball and do his own thing.
Yep.
And that made a lot of sense too, because, you know, he got his voice, because he was a writer before he became a TV show host. So it just made more sense to have him do it because it's in his words.
It's interesting you bring him up.
Yeah.
The guy that was the first director of photography for MeatEater filmed Bourdain's show.
Oh, really?
Which is why there's probably a little bit of that similar aesthetic, right? And, you know, Steve writes a lot of his own voiceover. I think Steve writes all his voiceover. I write all my voiceover because same deal. Like, if it doesn't sound like you, if it doesn't sound like something you would say, then
right,
you can sense the fraud. You can feel it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then they said that, you know, that's why he became known for kind of that voiceover work, and just, I mean, he was a poet. And
Bourdain's something special, man.
He is. And I wasn't Jeff was a big Bourdain fan when that show was running.
I loved it.
But and I've just kind of I don't know, I was probably in high school when it came out, because I think, well, when did Beirut happen? That was 2004. He was in Beirut when that happened.
Like Beirut, the first Beirut happened way before that, but
maybe. But he was pissed off.
Which Bourdain show did you like more, Jeff? Sorry, Andy, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
I liked his first one better than I did his second. What was the second one called?
Uncharted?
Yeah, that was on CNN.
Parts
First
Unknown.
one was No Reservations.
That was my
Second
favorite
was
one.
Unknown.
No Reservations was my favorite. And I like Parts Unknown. I like it because he was a street guy, you know, and it didn't matter if he went to Vietnam or if he was in Wales, he would get on the streets and eat with street people also. And I find that pretty fascinating. I also like Andrew Zimmern's stuff. I really do. The guy that eats anything, because it's just interesting. But I liked Anthony Bourdain because there was a lot of history involved there. And you know what's funny? Anthony Bourdain has nothing about him and me that are similar. He was a liberal. He was a druggie.
Well, he was apolitical.
An addict. But I really liked him and I respected him, and I would have loved to have sat down. He could have been my best friend. But we have absolutely nothing in common.
But that's probably what made his show so popular.
Yes, guys like me that would have nothing in common with a guy would watch his show religiously. I DVR'd his shows. I love his shows.
I think what you would have in common, though, which is what we're all missing with a lot of these types nowadays, is that you're just looking for authenticity. You're just looking for someone that's them. It doesn't matter if you have different political beliefs or, you know, beliefs about anything. It's that, like, you are both honest and charitable about your positions on things. And that, you know, that's what we run into with right now. Like, that's a problem we're running into as a society as a whole, is not that we have different beliefs necessarily. I mean, maybe on the extreme, at the extreme ends of the spectrum, yes. But I think it's way more that just nobody's having charitable takes. Nobody's just being forward and honest about what they're right on and what they're wrong on. Everyone's sticking to their guns too seriously, not willing to, like, have a honest, open discussion about things.
Yeah, he was a very interesting guy, and the world lost something when whatever happened to him happened to him. I hate that.
Absolutely.
Because I really enjoyed him, and he was right on the cusp of being huge.
What are you talking about?
He was really fixing to be really, really big.
You think so?
Yeah, his next 10
bigger than
years,
what he was?
Oh, a lot bigger, I think. I think he was fixing to be Joe Rogan-esque. I mean, I really think he was fixing to be a big platform for a lot of people because people related to him. The hippies, the liberals on the left, they related to him. Conservative, redneck people like me related to him. Like you said, I guess it was because he was just authentic in himself.
Just himself.
But I like that. But I enjoyed it because I like to travel and I like to see different places. And he would go off the beaten paths, you know, and I like that. And he always seemed like he was a nice person. And I appreciate that. I appreciate people that the little guy you visit with, and he seemed to be down to earth and connected to regular people. And that's one thing we have a problem of in this world, is that most of the people that are celebrities do not have any kind of connection with regular people. Regular people worship them, but those people could give two shits about you. He seemed like he genuinely give a shit about people. Yeah. And that's what I liked about him.
Well, and they showed there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and he would, like, he'd be in New York. Everybody knew him in New York, but he a worker, a street worker, like working on the streets, not a hooker. It's like, hey, let's go get a drink. And Anthony's like, are you off the clock yet? And like, he was legitimately going to go have a drink with a guy that was just like, hey, Tony, let's go have a beer with me. And he's like, well, are you on the clock or are you off the clock? But he would have sat down and had a beer with that guy that was working on the streets of Manhattan. No problem.
I'll give you an example of two other guys.
This makes me want to go rewatch the show.
Example of two other guys, though, that I don't think are like that. I don't think, and I like Guy Fieri. I really do. But I don't think Guy Fieri is really in touch with other people, and he may, because he did a lot to raise a lot of money for a lot of restaurants that were doing the COVID deal that he didn't have to do, and he is worth a shitload. I think he just signed a $25 million deal with Food Network, and they kicked off Bobby Flay, and they signed him. And Gordon Ramsay. And I like Gordon Ramsay's show where he goes all over and cooks and does competitions to a different country. I really enjoy that show, but Gordon Ramsay just does not seem like he's a very loving guy.
I like Gordon Ramsay, and I follow him on like social media and stuff. He's doing a better job of appealing to being normal. Because for a while he was just the guy that was throwing plates at people's heads, but he's doing a better job of showing his personality.
He comes off as a real asshole.
Well, like in this documentary, Bourdain hated mediocrity. Like, if you're going to do it, we're going to do it. And he would send a lot of emails to the producers. Tell the editor to unfuck itself is what the email would read.
But it was him that they were portraying. I understand that. But he seemed to have a connection, like you said, with the guy on the streets having a beer. Donald Trump's the same way. Donald Trump has nothing in common with us, but he connects with people really well. And the average working person likes Donald Trump. Even though Donald Trump is completely opposite of anything that they would like normally, they connect to him. Right. And Anthony Bourdain had that connection. And not a lot of people do. And over our time, there have been, John Wayne was that type of guy. Now, there was a different world we lived in, but there's been people in our time that connect with regular people, no matter how famous they are, how they just seem to connect. Yeah. Joe Burrow seems to be that way.
Part of that is that, do you think it's part of that those people just acknowledge the everyday Joe's real life? I mean, it's like simply acknowledging that they exist, right? And that they have their own struggles. I mean, that's certainly part of it.
And that could be, but, you know, there's just certain celebrities and people out there that just do not. Well, I don't know the word I'm looking for.
I think what helped Bourdain, and I think what helped like guys like Rogan, is they got successful later in life. So Anthony Bourdain, he was just fucking line cook for a lot of years until his book made it.
The Hard Knocks.
So he came up through struggle, and he came up, you know, he talked about every day it's just me and my 4 guys that show up to work on time every day. So he saw he was an average Joe until his book put him on the map and was bigger than what anybody could anticipate. So he was an average Joe for so long. And I think that's what made him be able to talk to people that were just, you know, from the garbage men to and he didn't put up with any shit, and to the top CEOs of networks. He was an average guy for so long. I think when people get famous early, like Johnny Depp, that's when the disconnect happens. That's when, you know, you've only known silk sheets and rose petals since you were 20 years old. Well, you're going to get a distorted view of reality, in my mind. I could be totally wrong.
Johnny Depp, from Anthony Bourdain to Johnny Depp, boy, that's way too opposite.
Well, it's just that's what's so interesting about that trial to me. It's so many people for so long like, I want to be a movie star. I want to marry a movie star. Johnny Depp's hot. I'd be his wife. He's a fucking alcoholic. He's got a jar of cocaine, according to Amber Heard, and he pours mega pints of wine at 9:30 in the morning. Like that's the guy you want to tie yourself to. That's who you want to hitch your wagon to. So that kind of, I think that has lifted the veil on how Hollywood probably truly is.
I don't think it's ever been a
that
secret.
and the Will Smith thing, right?
That's a weird cat right there. You know, he was kind of like America's.
He was America's guy.
Yeah, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, the bad boy stuff. He come across as what a weird fucker, and nutless too.
He wouldn't put the F word in his rap songs, but by golly, you put him on live television, he's gonna scream it out.
Did you see where his wife wants Chris Rock and him to work it out?
No.
She wants Chris Rock and him to sit down and iron things out. First of all, Chris Rock weighs 137 pounds. If you're pissed off and you're going to punch some guy for talking shit about your wife, you better do a better job of that. Especially, he will never, ever get a role as a badass again.
Chris Rock?
Will Smith.
Oh, yeah, they will.
No, there's no way. You can't watch Bad Boys now and not think, what a pussy. There's no way.
I bet.
There's no way in hell that you would watch and think, no.
I bet it'll all go away.
I wouldn't even watch Muhammad Ali now. I'd be embarrassed.
The sad thing is he had all that training from Muhammad Ali, and that was the punch that he pulls off. But a bitch slap. Bitch slap is what it was. Your show, did you edit it and produce it, or did you have somebody else do that? Since you come from that world.
Producing. Yeah, I did the producing. The editors has been various editors. There's 2 specifically that have done more than anyone else. Max Barta that worked with me before, and a guy named Hansi that works at MeatEater, who, to me, he's the best freaking editor there is, man. We actually just featured him on a MeatEater social media post the other day, and talked about Hansi's, editing and long form storytelling, and he's the real deal, man. He's just one of those guys that gets it, and he's a waterfowler too, which helps a ton.
Yeah,
he knows what we all like to see and look at.
Was that hard, given your background as somebody that would edit these videos? Was that hard to give that control over to somebody else?
I think yes and no. I think the part that it's hard to not micromanage it, like be too detail oriented on it. But also I think it's nice to give it to someone else that can be objective about it. Right. And wasn't there, didn't see it themselves. They are watching that footage from a point of a clean slate. And so they don't have biases about how the hunt should look, or they don't have preconceived notions about it, which I think really helps the story.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things. A long time ago, my first full year here after college, we filmed I filmed some stuff, but I also edited it. And like you said, you already have kind of this preconceived idea of where you want the story to go. Whereas had we sent that footage off, it would have been, number one, I hate video editing. I'm awful at it. It's painstaking. It's just, I'd want to drive nails through my eyeballs by the end of the day. And had we sent that off, it would have been so much better. I mean, so much better. Just because they would look at the footage for what it is and not what I wanted it to be necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, man, and it takes a certain kind of mind and a certain kind of person to be able to sit down for 10 hours every day and tell story through Premiere Pro.
Oh.
I did that for a long time, and it was, I never got to a point where it was the part I loved. I did that because it allowed me for the other 6 months of the year to travel with the camera, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh my God. I just think back to it's 90 minutes long in its entirety. It's 6 hunts, and I hated life. 'Cause you'd fuck up, you'd screw something up, and then you'd have to fix that. And then it got to where I was editing up until 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, and I'd go to bed and my brain wouldn't shut off. So the whole night I was basically getting half-ass sleep thinking about, because at first, when you've got a season full of footage, that's a mountain in itself that you're like, oh, fuck, I got to climb this somehow. and then you start whittling away, and then when you do get to the end, you're like, okay, I just need to power through this and make it happen. But I'm so glad that we've got somebody else doing that now.
Yeah. I don't know how many hundreds of terabytes of footage still from over the years. That's like, someday someone will want to dig through all that, but I'm good.
So,
been through that part.
What is the plan? So when does season 2 of Duck Lore launch? Is it in July or August?
In July, yeah. So I'm pretty sure the date is July 19th that Duck Lore season 2 will launch. And that's coinciding with our launch of the First Light waterfowl gear. So we're getting into the waterfowl clothing business, and I wore and tested a bunch of that over the last year and some change. And anyway, so that comes online this next month, as well as Duck Lore season 2. And we're doing all sorts of, I mean, I've been really getting deep into the weeds on extra content. You know, I really want MeatEater to be a place that people can come to learn about waterfowl hunting, whether people are beginners or experienced. I want, like, even something I would love to do longer term. I think it would be fun as hell for guys like yourself or myself and, you know, all sorts of different guys that have done a lot of waterfowl hunting to crowdsource drone photos or spread photos and like go through them and critique them and things like that. I just want to be able to do I really want to be able to do as much waterfowl stuff as we can. So we've been doing a lot of how-to videos and more Duck Lore episodes, stuff like that.
You're already doing something kind of like that. I've seen on your Facebook. You know, you had aerial footage of spread and wind and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of a preamble to what you're hoping to work for?
Yeah, I'm kind of just like testing the waters right now on what all, you know, I've wrote articles a lot over the last year of even cool stories from in the waterfowl space. And a lot of that is me having to go search and seek out those things, which, you know, I love doing. But it'd be nice to be able to find a way to, I guess, bring some of that to me without having to always seek out those things. Be able to get emails to the MeatEater website and, you know, people saying, hey, what would you do with this? What would you do with this spread? Because the ducks weren't decoying worth a shit, you know,
right? Things
like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I get those fucking emails, so I'll just forward them to you from now on. I do, and I had an interesting. So we had Forrest Carpenter and Kyle Jones here, and
good dudes.
At the time they were working for Dive Bomb, and they were here filming a hunt for Dive Bomb and everything. But we were talking, and he was like, you know, we get a lot of emails about wind's going to be out of the southwest, sun's coming up here, ducks are coming from here. What would you do? And he's like, that's good and all, but, and he's like, and I always answer. But at the same time, like, you can kind of tell that they don't want the blame if something goes bad. So if they set it up like Forrest and Kyle tell them to, they always have the luxury of saying, well, this is how they told me to do it and it didn't work. So, yeah, I get a lot of those messages, but
yeah,
and you know,
that's fair.
I look at it as I can only get what you're telling me here. So like, there's a lot that I don't know about what's going on in your area. I think we froze up. There he is.
I don't know what happened. My internet went out there.
There's no telling it. Probably it could be ours. We're working on a new studio, and they probably cut a fucking line or something, knowing us. But
don't say that.
But like I was saying, you know, when I get those messages, I can only gather however much information you're giving me, and obviously I'm not going to know everything that's particular about your area, so I can just answer how I would do it. But it would be interesting to kind of have a collaboration of a bunch of different people working on things like that, because you get more than just your mind or my mind or Forrest's mind. You get kind of this group think tank on how to tackle certain issues. So that would be cool to see.
Yeah, it would be fun. It would be fun, even if it's just every now and then, even in the freaking Instagram comments, right? You can get into the weeds with that type of stuff. If like the post I'd thrown up yesterday of drone shots, it's like, man, there could be a million different ways someone else would have handled that hunt. And I'd love to like hear that, see that, discuss that.
Smart.
And not just decoy spreads, but
so you moved your spread over to the I'm looking at your picture right now. You moved it across the way. What did you do that for? They were just working that island more?
Yeah, man, for whatever reason. And the reason we had set up on the one we were on to begin with is because the wind was kind of better for it, right?
Right.
It wasn't as much of a cross shot. It was more a quartering into your face approach. Mm-hmm. And then, but it just didn't matter for whatever reason. Those ducks liked that second cattail island out there. And that's a weird one because it, I guess just that much closer proximity to the smartweed was that big of a difference. But
what did they feel? I wonder if they felt more protected with that smartweed on that side, because like I would have set up. Your first spread is right where I would have set up, 100%. It's wide. It looks like it's bigger opening out in front of you, and the wind, like you said, it's kind of this quartering approach. That's exactly that's exactly what I would have done. There's no way that I would have set up with the smartweed in front of me like that. I mean, unless
no, because it was you were in a tight area there, and the wind was kind of almost not just crosswind, but almost a touch of the wind in your face, and they're kind of coming over your left shoulder a little bit.
And if I did set up
not ideal.
If I did set up on that island, I would have set up on the far left end of it and had the wind truly at my back. So I would have totally screwed. I would have screwed that up even if I would have sat there. They'd have been landing off to my right. Oh, that's interesting. You're onto something here. I like what you're doing here. I think it'll be fun. And then it was like, so on the third picture, yeah, you did have the wind in your face almost.
Yeah, it's goofy.
And it was a totally cross shot?
Yeah, how they would hook in, and it was ending up, they would, even though the wind was a little bit in our face, how they would decoy would end up being a nice little cross shot.
I like, for geese and stuff, I've found myself, if I can cross shoot them, a lot of times I do, because you get the whole flock, so you get top to bottom. You can shoot at everything, rather than that front approach, you only get the first 10 or so birds. But whenever you set yourself up for a
it is
crosswind,
wild how much that helps.
You get everything. Yeah.
You guys hunting lessers a lot too. It's amazing to me how much it helps hunting lessers to be on cross shots.
Mm-hmm. Because like you said, when you're shooting them straight on, you only get that first layer of birds, but then you turn it to the side and you get from the ground to 20 or 30 yards high. And we get a lot.
I got a question. So you guys said that you haven't had your widge in the last couple of years.
Yes.
What have you had instead, duck-wise?
Nothing. Coots.
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing. We hadn't had no ducks in 2 years.
Really?
At all.
Last year, mid to late January, we got pintails. You can only shoot one of them, so it's hardly worth. But yeah, we don't get any ducks, it seems like.
It was a horrible duck season from middle of Oklahoma south last year. And even the guys in Kansas had horrible duck seasons compared to normal. And there's places that they killed a lot, but it was a horrible waterfowl season from top to bottom, other than a few, little pockets of places that had them. I think northern Indiana had some really good duck hunting in some places, but I think overall it was just we didn't have no winter.
Yeah.
Them birds, there ain't no pressure on them ducks to come out of Canada, and there's food and water. No snow is our biggest problem. If we could get snowfall like we used to have, that food to get covered up, those birds will move around. you know, and everybody way down south thinks it's because of hot water, you know, they got water on that corn, hot ponds and shit. That don't have nothing to do with it. We got to have some winter. If you get some food and some snow and it covers that food up, those birds are going to move.
That's the thing I really wish that, you know, I've been trying to talk about it a little bit here and there, but I should talk about more. When people talk about hot cropping up in the north, like, I don't know where they think all this flooded corn is in South Dakota.
Right.
It's like the only flooded corn in South Dakota is natural flooded corn that you get from heavy September rains, and that stuff freezes by Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is no one managing flooded corn with ice eaters and aerators and stuff in South Dakota, and really not even in Nebraska.
Who the fuck can afford to plant
Iowa?
1,000
there's
acres of corn and just flood it?
And just give it to the ducks?
I mean, you can't do that. Nobody can afford to do it. There might guys have 5 or 10 acres here or there that they do, but those are going to get eaten out pretty fast. But you can't afford, you know, there is nobody out there going to have 1,000 acres of flooded corn and just flood the shit this year. I mean, what the hell? Diesel price is the way it is. Fuel price is the way it is. And the price of corn, you're going to get greedy. And you're like, fuck, we better combine this shit. You know,
I think you're seeing a lot of guys go back to that moist soil unit stuff for a reason too. It keeps the ducks moving more. It actually provides more cover and more forage for them. Like I think the days of flooded corn and you know, I know they do it a lot in Missouri, relatively speaking, compared to the more northern states, but I don't think that's going to keep going the way it is. I'm going to write an article on it, but one of the really interesting things to talk about is the spread of power plants west. A lot of those more eastern states like Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, as they've raised taxes, Minnesota as well, as those states have had higher taxes and higher cost of employment, things like that, a lot of those power plants have shut down and moved farther west into the Dakotas, Wyoming, Montana. And, dude, those things hold a lot of birds. You know, Fergus Falls, Minnesota just shut down their power plant a year ago, I think, which kept water open and Canada geese on it for, you know, all winter.
Right.
And then now instead that's closed, but you have more power plants opening up in the Dakotas. And I think you'll see some of those goose populations and mallard populations shift with it.
That's fascinating.
Really
I did not know that. I didn't know that I didn't know that was the reason that they were closing down in some of these states. It was because of higher taxes, so they're moving west. That's going to be interesting to see. And I also did not know that the plant in Fergus Falls closed down. We've got a really good friend there. We might have to have him back on here in the future to see what that looked like for their waterfowl season. That's where I got this rivet band from. Sent me a rivet band from Fergus Falls. It's one I carry on my finger whenever I do podcasts. But that's interesting. I didn't know that was going on. It's going to be interesting to see if they do start losing birds to western states. How do you're going to write an article on this? Was this something that got brought up to you, or is this just something that you just knew and you're like, hey, let me explore this more to write an article on?
This is the kind of stuff that I like to get really into the weeds on, right? Is, you know, the migration is so multifaceted and what affects populations, how they move. It's people like to make it simple because it's easy to digest. It's easy to say those idiots north of us flooding corn ruined the migration. But there's so much more to it than that. And, you know, I've hunted a lot of power plant areas, and I'm like, man, I know there's a ton of geese that don't leave Sioux City, Iowa, because the water doesn't freeze. Same with places in Nebraska, Wyoming, Idaho. And so that was kind of how I got further into that. Then I started looking up power plant closures, and when I read about Rochester closing theirs,
the Mayo Clinic.
And you know, Rochester, And so you just kind of, and there's a bunch more things I want to write articles on that affect migration, because that's like one small piece of the puzzle.
Right.
Very small.
Yes.
You know, farming practices is another big one too.
Well, and, you know, the people in South Louisiana, they like to point to the guys at the north, and, you know, it's the Missouri's fault, and then Missouri says, well, it's Illinois' fault, and it just keeps going up the chain. Another thing that, so they're not planting as much rice in Louisiana, change of farming practices, and coastal erosion. I mean, but it's always, but I think people like to point the finger at things that they may be able to change, rather than it's just Mother Nature at this time, and the dollars aren't in rice production anymore, and coastal erosion.
Right.
None of those things are easy fixes. Whereas, well, if we could just get those damn hot croppers to quit hot cropping, our ducks will come back.
Yeah. Yeah. And another one that's a big one that really no one wants to talk about, urbanization.
Yes.
You know, you got towns like Des Moines, Iowa, that now have hundreds of these aerated ponds in suburbia that never freeze, and cornfields all around them in city limits that don't get hunted. Well, that's a shitload of mallards and geese that never leave Des Moines, Iowa now. And, you know, you can pick pretty much any city in the north, Chicago, Minneapolis, Omaha, you know, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, go across the whole north, and you can find urbanization directly wintering waterfowl.
Yeah.
And there's just so many things like that you're not going to get rid of that. You're not just going to all of a sudden one day be like, okay, Des Moines, Iowa, you got to stop growing because you're holding too many geese.
Right. That's an interesting problem. But it's one of those things, like, what are you going to do about it? And there's nothing that you really can do. I mean, really.
Here's another interesting one. Ethanol. Ethanol subsidies directly created. I don't know what it is. It's like there's over 100 ethanol plants now. It might even be 400. I can't remember the number. But those ethanol plants all have cooling ponds to cool down the water that ultimately stay open all winter. A lot of them anyway. Well, 40 years ago, there was no such thing as an ethanol plant. Now they're everywhere. And they're all holding geese and ducks.
Because the water's open.
And they got corn around them because that's what they're making ethanol.
Whoever come up
with the bright idea to take a food source to make it a fuel source was a dumbass.
They obviously were not waterfowl hunters.
Ideas.
That's the dumbest shit ever. You know, and now we've got food shortages. Just talking this with the farmer yesterday. One of our biggest problems we're dealing with right now is we're having food shortages. People see all this corn planted and they're like, well, that'll at least help. No, that corn is being raised for ethanol and cattle food.
Oh.
Most of the corn being planted is for cattle food. It's not for human consumption.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
So we're taking one of the biggest crops we're growing everywhere other than cotton, and ain't nobody going to eat on cotton. And you're using it to feed cattle, which does feed us, and to make fucking fuel.
Well,
and that is not good for us either.
The fuel one's a weird one because now all the science is out there that it's bad for engines.
Yes.
And that it's unsustainable. Yet we're still doing it because once government subsidizes something, it never goes away.
It's kind of like the COVID vaccine.
That's the real problem.
Yeah. But, you know, the guy in Buffalo that got shot, he figured out how to make an engine that ran on water. And then he miraculously gets shot. So, I don't know. I'm not a big conspiracy guy, but that one's got some red flags around it.
Listen to this.
Is that true? He actually created a motor that runs off water? I don't know.
Supposedly.
He did a video. He did a video with the local Buffalo station, and he showed how it cranked up, and he had a patent that was out, or he had a patent that was waiting to come back, and
the lobbyist killed him literally.
You can look at it. I mean, if it is true, and I know that's the worst thing that you can say. If this is true, this is really big. But he had done a video, an interview with the local Buffalo station that he had figured out how to make an engine run solely on water. Now he's dead, so we'll never know.
Yesterday I was looking at, me and Mom are booking our trip for the fall where we're going to go to, and one of the car rentals was a Tesla. I thought, oh, that'd be cool, but then I thought, I don't want to have to jack with having to charge some bitch up. I don't want to have to base my days on having to charge a freaking car at an electric station. In middle of South Dakota, are there Tesla stations everywhere? To charge stations?
There's no. The only charging stations are, one of the first things Tesla did was they made it that you could cross the country and always have a charger. So on I-90, there are like 4. I think there's one in Sioux Falls.
There's
one in like Chamberlain. There's one in Murdo, and there's one in Rapid City. So it's like there's 4 in the whole state.
So you have to wait in line. It's funny too when you get on the West Coast. There's the Teslas everywhere.
Yeah,
you get in the big cities, but you get in the middle of America, and you don't see them very often.
I saw
it's all just if you can drive urban, it makes sense, right?
Yes, it does.
People in Bozeman, there's a lot of them, but they're people that never leave town here, right? They stay here.
Matter of fact,
they're going to leave town. They put gas in their car.
That's where I saw them. Where I saw a bunch of charging stations was in Bozeman. We ate pizza one night at a place in Bozeman, and it's right by the Hilton Garden Inn. It's in that same parking lot there. It was a pizza joint, and I can't remember the name. It was a damn good place to eat, and I wish I could think of the name of it now.
I saw a video, and I hope it's a spoof, but they have a Tesla, and they need gas for their generator to charge their Tesla. I pray that this is just a spoof video, but they did, in the back of the Tesla, they carried a generator, and their generator was out of gas, and the Tesla was dead. So they needed a ride to town to get gas for their Jenny to plug in their Tesla. And the guy's like,
well,
what are we doing here?
There was a real interesting one that I know is not a spoof. That was yesterday. The CEO, I think it was the CEO of General Motors, is doing like a publicity event in Lansing, Michigan, talking about their new all-electric car. And she's charging it outside, like, I can't remember if it's their plant or like outside the Lansing, Michigan, city council office or whatever, but whatever it is, they're outside some big brick building. They're charging this car, and the reporter asks her, who is what's charging this? And she goes, oh, the city of Lansing, and it's their power. And the reporter's like, well, what's their power? And she's like, I think they're pretty natural gas. I'm not sure. And then they go ask a Lansing city and water energy guy, and he's like, we're 97% coal.
Coal, yeah. I was gonna say coal.
But here's the thing: like the idea of electric cars to me is a great idea if we had nuclear power,
right?
Right. Like if we were making a switch to nuclear, which is by far the cleanest, we have an energy crisis in America, and we're going to continue to have an energy crisis in America, so long as we don't just let the best energy win. We're not letting just the best energy win, which to me would be nuclear.
Yeah. Everybody's afraid of
and
that.
Until that day comes, you got to have fossil fuels.
Yeah, and everybody's afraid of having that nuclear disaster. And I think that fear is what's keeping us away from nuclear. I think.
Yeah.
Because what was that 3 Mile Island? That was all nuclear, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There's a series on Netflix about 3 Mile Island when that nuclear reactor melted down or some shit.
Almost was a major catastrophe.
It would have been a big one.
A huge one.
Would that have been a world ender?
You know what's going to be?
It would have just fucked up the East Coast.
But what's another disaster is that California is predicting rolling blackouts till 2030. I mean, that's a crisis too. Like, you got to have energy, people. Cheap energy means a better society. Well, it really does.
You say 2030, and the world was going to end in 2015. New York was going to be a foot underwater. At 2030, they're going to have rolling blackouts till 2040. It'll never change because they don't want to do what it takes to fix things, like you said, cheap energy. Same with water problems, and California has tons of water problems. Why don't you build some desalination plants, instead of spending $1 billion on a high-speed railroad that never came about?
I gotta say, like, the thing about cheap energy, and this is the thing that no one really wants to tell you from the upper echelons of society, is cheap energy benefits poor people.
Yes.
Cheap energy benefits the working class. Like, they can talk all they want about how we can invest all this money into renewable energies and whatnot, but ultimately what a high tide lifts all boats is cheap energy.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
that's how you save society.
Well, and they want to make sure that they're getting their cut too. You know,
I am not a price shopper. I buy stuff I like or what I want. If I see something I want, I go buy it. When I'm in a grocery store, I don't look at prices. I just buy shit. Well, I used to be that way with gasoline. If I'm driving down the road and my truck says I need gas, I pull in and get gas. I don't give a shit where it's at. I don't look across the street to see if it's 3 cents cheaper. I just buy gas. And it probably shouldn't be that way, but I've always been. Lately, I notice it costs me $100 bill to fill up my truck every time I go, everywhere I go. And everybody else is noticing that shit too. That thing, it's not costing me anything else. I haven't had to go without because I'm paying $100 for gas. Been pretty lucky. It gets to $200 every time I fill up, then it's going to start really hurting me a bunch because I'm going to have to quit doing shit. And I'm almost to that point now at $100. But there are people out there that are on a fixed income. A single mom, parents are struggling, lower middle class people, that was costing them $40 to fill up their truck once a week or fill up, and that's all they did was fill up once a week. They didn't do nothing but go to work, grocery store, take kids to practice. Now it's $100. That's 60 fucking extra dollars. Those were groceries. They'll buy $20 worth of groceries now before you used to buy $60 worth. And this shit's getting real.
Well,
and cheap energy, like you said, what's killing? It's killing the middle class people. If you got billions of dollars, it don't matter.
Right. And what cheap energy does is creates cheaper everything else.
Yep.
Right. If you have cheap energy, which creates cheap trucking, which creates cheap food.
Yep.
You have expensive energy. You have not just expensive utilities and not just expensive to get to work, but then you have expensive food. And that doesn't, like you said, it doesn't hurt a billionaire.
No, or a politician, because do you know have you heard about one politician filing for Chapter 11? Ever? Hell, they're all rich. They're all attorneys and shit. You know, we don't need more attorneys in D.C. We need working people. We'd be better off to go to a trucking company in the Rio Grande Valley and pluck a guy there, go to a guy that's an electrical contractor in Kansas City and pluck him here, and put those guys in Washington, D.C., because they can relate to people. They understand what's going on. Even when you get to the big cities, all their aldermen and stuff from the poor side of towns, they're all fucking crooks. You know? They're all paid off and bought off by lobbyists and everybody else, and that's our problem. All our politicians are bought and sold.
Yep.
And it's trickled down, and now it's gas and energy, and, you know. I don't know much about solar energy, but it seems to me like the whole state of Nevada outside of Las Vegas to Reno, and you could put mirrors that whole place and make a solar deal, but I don't think it pays its bills.
Well, the thing that I worry about with that is, you know, I've seen some discussions and proposals from the government on putting big solar farms on BLM ground. Well, how's that impact our wildlife and our hunting?
Right.
I mean, that's a huge amount of land that it would take to power the West Coast off of solar, and it's going to end up hurting people like us that love rural places. It's not going to hurt the urban folk.
Right. They don't ever leave town. And, you know, I wonder, too, these high gas prices, how much of that is going to keep people out of waterfowl hunting this year? You know, burning down the roads, or that trip to North Dakota that used to cost you one amount is going to be exponentially higher this year. So
yeah, I hauled a trailer full of stuff to Bozeman, and it cost me $580 in gas.
Oof,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of freaking
insane.
That's a lot of freaking dough.
We're going to dive or Squad Fest in
July 15th.
July 15th and 16th, and gas will probably be $19 a gallon by then. But I looked at getting on airplane tickets the other day. I just looked 2 days ago at airplane tickets. I thought, shit, it might be cheaper for us just to fly than to drive.
Is it not?
It wouldn't be, but it's not much difference now, because you talk about, I figured up it's 3 tanks of gas up there and 3 tanks of gas back. So that's $600 in gas.
Well, they just announced the new CPI, the new inflation print this morning.
Yeah, I saw that.
At 8.6.
Yeah.
8.6. That's insane.
But if you watch Jimmy Kimmel, things are going good right now.
Had to cut. It's going so good they had to cut to commercial
Yeah.
because things are going so good. Fucking Biden started rambling, and he's like, Kimmel, we got some biracial commercials to show you. Cut to commercial.
What we need to do.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah, I did see that.
We could fix this country in about 5 minutes if we would get rid of all the fucking media heads and just put regular media in there. If the media actually did their job, because the media reported what the hell's really going on this earth.
Well, the press secretary said that everything's going great.
She's a dumbass too.
I don't.
You know how hard
Makes my blood boil.
it's like the January 6th insurrection stuff. I don't give two shits about that. I really don't. I'm more interested in finding out why we let them burn down Minneapolis and why we haven't done anything about that. I'm more interested about the Epstein and Maxwell trial and what was said and what, who we're covering up for. I don't care about the January 6th deal. I don't. And I think majority of most Americans don't give two shits about January 6th.
Yeah.
And that's and if you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. But most people I know do not care and aren't going to watch it. When it's cost $100 to fill up your truck and it's $5 for a box of Blue Box Kraft macaroni and cheese, you really don't give a shit about January 6th.
Well, I want to know about all the mysterious fires at all these chicken plants. That's what I want to know about.
Yeah.
I think we've had 24 chicken plants burned down this year.
25 now. I think another one burned down 2 days ago.
Man, that's not to change the subject on that, but another thing that's impacted the turkey and chicken stuff has been the avian influenza.
Yep.
There has been tens and tens and tens of millions of turkeys and chickens culled and killed because of this highly pathogenic avian influenza. Which I've about had enough of diseases.
Like of turkeys and chickens, turkeys that are in captivity?
Yes, warehouses full
Okay,
of them.
So not the wild turkey.
So what happened? No, so what happened was we had a new highly pathogenic avian influenza come over from Europe in January or December. Mm-hmm. It was December. It was the first time I think it was recorded in South Carolina, which then spread slowly west, got into the wild birds in Arkansas, southern Mississippi flyway. As the spring migration started, they carried it all through the Midwest and got it into all these domestic populations. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the number is now, but it's probably close to 100 million birds culled now in Iowa and Minnesota, Wisconsin, all those places.
That's why chicken prices
because
are so
of
high.
Oh, it's insane. It's insane.
And that was a cheap protein for a lot of people. Did you see any of the snow goose with this bird flu this year in your neck of the woods?
A ton of it.
Really?
Ton of it. Yeah, I have a video on my Instagram of Max and I counting 57 dead birds just on one bank of the lake.
How far back is it? I'll try to find it.
I can send it to you. It's
What's the video of this duck head? Oh, a catfish.
That was in a catfish.
That'd be a big ass catfish.
Yeah,
eat a full blown duck. I'm looking here. So 50.
Yeah, I got it.
I think I see it. Maybe. No, maybe not. But 57 birds you counted.
I'm sending it to you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, I did see this. Yep.
Well, there was 50. There was 57 total. I think in that video it's 43 we counted. But, yeah. Crazy.
Have you heard of anything? Has that kind of played itself out? We had a biologist on, Brian Richards, and he was hopeful that when they got back to the nesting grounds that it would kind of fizzle itself out. Obviously, the snows are a little bit different because they go up to the tundra and they stay in mass flocks. But have you heard anything? Is it pretty well fizzled out?
I haven't heard anything since they jumped the trees. I know it's still impacting them, on the plains in Saskatchewan, but I haven't heard about since they got back to the tundra. So, and I don't know because there's just not a lot of biologists up there right now,
Right. Yeah, it's a hard area to do any research in. I'm like you. I'm ready for the diseases to go away. I'm ready for gas to be about
You want America to turn into America again.
I want $2 gas. To hell with the $1.50.
Tell you what, man.
I'm not gonna be greedy. I want $2 gas.
Oh, dude, I would be tickled pink over $3 gas right now.
Yeah, I never thought that I would ever say that. Give me $2.99 and I'll be happy as a clam. Because people can still, it sucks, but people can still do stuff on
We're
it.
at the breaking point where people are going to quit driving to do things.
It's getting close.
I mean, we are really getting to the point.
Oh man, I've quit doing things the last couple weeks. Yeah. Like there's nights where usually I would just kind of when I need to think, clear my head a little bit, go for a drive. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Going for a drive now isn't something I do casually. I do it with intention now.
Somebody said gas is $8 a gallon in California right now.
Canada.
Well,
that's what somebody said.
It's $8 in Canada.
I think Toby Brolin told us that.
I know that yesterday the national average hit $5 a gallon.
Yeah, it's $4.60.
For the first time
I paid
ever.
$4.69 yesterday here. Yeah. But you talk about $8 a gallon. Well, in Canada, you can't even go anywhere without a damn vax passport still. You can't get on a bus or plane or nothing still.
I don't know.
I kept thinking they're going to open up their border and stuff. This gun deal in Canada and the one in the United States is really kind of scary too. Canada is going to get worse than the United States is. I'm telling you right now, and I keep telling you, if you want to go hunt in Canada, you better get it done in the next couple of years because it's just as long as if Trudeau stays in office much longer, he's going to have it shut down to any American hunters coming over there. I don't give a shit if you're shooting fucking bow and arrow. It's coming.
You'll probably have to shoot a over under like you would in places like South America, Mexico, whatever.
That's what I shoot. It's a gentleman's gun.
Because they banned semi-autos, didn't they?
Yeah, but but
obviously there has to be a hunting loophole because most shotguns are quote-unquote semi-auto. So are those guns now illegal?
They'll probably just make you shoot over unders.
Over and under, like you said?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you have to shoot over. So that was something we had snow goose clients that came from Britain because they thought it was so cool you could shoot semi-auto with extensions because they have to shoot over-unders.
Over-unders. So that's the law over there. They're not just gentlemen about it. The law is you can't shoot semi-auto, so you have to do over and under.
I don't think you can shoot. I don't think you can even own a semi-auto shotgun over there.
Those frauds. I thought they were just gentlemanly and only wanted to shoot 2 times.
No.
I didn't realize it was out of necessity.
They were gentlemen because they're shooting the same guns they shot in 1800s.
But that was the law.
But the Canada deal is going to get serious about Americans going up there. Everybody that keeps thinking, oh no, it's not. It's coming. I'm telling you, they're pushing the button more and more and more. They don't like hunters. The majority in Canada, Trudeau and them don't want hunters. They don't want American hunters coming up there. They don't want our guns. To be honest with you, I don't think they really want Americans coming to Canada anymore. Now, the people that live there do.
I think it's just sad because it just shows that they aren't in touch with those little towns on the prairie that need that revenue, man.
Yep.
Zero. They just need it.
They have zero clue about that. And they don't give a shit because everything runs out of Ottawa and Toronto and Vancouver, and a few other big towns. But that's basically where they run everything out of. And we're doing the same thing. Look at California. California is a microcosm of Canada. Everything runs through Los Angeles and shit and San Francisco. Those people out in Western.
And it's kind of crazy when you think about California because it's like the second best duck hunting state. It's like incredible duck harvest and so good. And no one even really gives it its time of day.
But how long do you think them people are going to get a hunt out there?
I don't know. I
mean, it's sad, but they're outnumbered by all the dumbasses in Los Angeles. And I feel sorry for those people.
I would hope that this whole thing is a nice learning moment for everybody, that we shouldn't try to tell each other how to live our lives. And that goes both ways. Mm-hmm. Like in general, what helps everybody is when we don't tell each other how to live and we all exchange financial means, dollars, gold, whatever the heck have you, for productivity and work. And that ultimately leads to a great society. And the further we get away from that, the further there's all these little things that pop up that cause problems that didn't seem to be problems before. And a lot of it comes from just trying to tell each other how to live.
Well, the problem is one side controls the media. And that's really hurt us. We don't get a fair a lot of people don't have a clue what's going on because they don't want to watch the news no more, and I don't blame them. They're sick of it, and they don't. Half the bullshit on Facebook, left or right, is both propaganda, and it's hard to see what's in the middle. But if they turn on ABC, NBC, or CBS, they're only getting one side. You know, they don't get a fair. The news is not fair anymore. It's an opinion. It's not the news.
And that's your opinion.
That is my opinion.
But you're right. I mean, we're kind of at a point where everybody on both sides is finger wagging at the other one, whether it's abortion issues or gun rights issues. It just, man, I was driving out here the other day and I was thinking, you know, maybe is there going to come a time in my lifetime where we see a split where, you know, more conservative areas are going to start regulating their own and then let the lefties have California and New York? And
I'd be all for that.
But I mean, I don't know. It was something that I genuinely thought.
There's a book called Atlas Shrugged by a gal named Ayn Rand. And what she ultimately goes through and proposes is it's not even that whether government and people telling each other how to live is just naive or evil. It does not matter. It just doesn't work. And that, like, over the course of the book, what she eventually leads to is, like, create your community of people that have, like, the same core beliefs and tenets of how to function as a group and as a society. And then you control yourselves and create agreements amongst yourselves of how to live. And you know, the Hutterites in South Dakota, North Dakota, like, that's how they live, right? Mm-hmm. They have their little colony of 250 people, you know, 10, 20 different families, and they're self-functioning. Like, they just go do their own thing. And man, going and living on a Hutterite colony right now sounds pretty good.
Well, and that might go back to urbanization, because so many people are going to these urban areas and the countryside is dying that it gets hard. It's harder to create that community bond if you're in a city of 3 million people. Whereas, like, out here, we've got a great sense of community purpose because everybody knows one another and we look after our own little community. But I mean, all you have to do is scroll Twitter for just a minute and you'll see, like, nobody acts anymore. Like, there was a guy that pushed a lady onto the subway tracks not too long ago. Robbed her and pushed her on the subway tracks. Nobody did anything to him.
Should have beat his ass.
Because nobody, you know, out of sight, out of mind. So urbanization might be what's leading to us not giving a shit about one another anymore.
I think it's also going to wake people up to their food chain.
Yes.
And how food gets on their plate.
Right.
Hungry people sure think different.
Yes. And they get desperate.
Yeah. And there's going to be some hungry people if we don't get some things changed. I tell people all the time, you need to stock up on shit. It may not be able to stock up on ho-hos and ding-dongs and shit you want, but you better be able to get you some pasta, rice, and beans, because you can survive on that. Mm-hmm. It may not be your favorite meal all the time, but rice goes a long way.
Well, and, I mean, if you've got the storage space, you might as well get items that don't have a expiration date on it, because it's only going to get more expensive.
Yeah. Canned non-perishables. Yeah, that's an interesting thing in how inflation. So I don't know if you guys know. I went to school for economics, so this is all real fascinating for me. Inflation begets inflation, because as prices go up, people try to stockpile to forego future raising of price, which ultimately creates a supply problem, which creates more inflation. And that's how you get hyperinflation. That's how you get
when everybody
Weimar
panic
Germany.
buys. When everybody panic buys, and then it just the price skyrockets.
That's why you have these. That's why you have photos from Weimar Germany of people burning their government issued money because it was so worthless that it was better to use it as a source of heat than to actually try to spend it on firewood.
That happened in Venezuela too, didn't it?
They just hit a gas line behind my house.
Oh shit. Okay, Jeff's got to run. Well, I'll start wrapping up with you while he goes and fixes that debacle. They hit a gas line?
Yeah, the guys are doing all that, putting in new lines. They actually punctured one behind my house.
Oh, fun. Evacuate the block. It's been almost 2 hours anyway, and I know you got a lot of cool things to do rather than talk to us. Duck Lore Season 2 comes out next month, July. How many episodes is that going to be?
Yes, sir.
8?
Another 6.
Another 6.
Another 6.
Another 6. And then what all do you have lined up for this coming waterfowl season? You going a lot of cool places?
Yeah, gonna try to do a bunch of new places. Not gonna try to hit the same things over again. Might hit a few spots that we struggled last year over again, and like try to get
some redemption.
Get some redemption a little bit, but keep hitting new places. In Duck Lore Season 2, we hit a bunch of awesome ground. I mean, we hit Missouri, Salt Lake, Arkansas, New Mexico, South Dakota. So a lot of cool variety. And same thing next year. Gonna look for a bunch of variety. So
New Mexico is becoming this hidden gem. From what we've started noticing it more, that New Mexico is actually a really good waterfowl state.
I think the only reason that it's good is because there's not too much pressure. If it got a bunch of pressure, it would very quickly become bad because there's not a lot of areas to hunt. Right.
The duck population, the duck numbers are not there, and the opportunity to spread people out isn't there either. Well, good.
Right.
And I'm sure now that we talked about it, everybody will be out in New Mexico this year. Oops.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy hunting, that's for sure.
Really?
It wasn't like it was cherry hunting, no. But I mean, it was decent.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was cool to do it, like experience it. We
have a guy that listens to the podcast, and he's from Arizona, and they smash the honkers in Arizona, and that's got to be pretty cool with the mountains and desert mountains and shit in the background, because I think it's all irrigated land in the middle of a desert.
Yeah, I know there's a guy in Arizona and New Mexico, Arizona specifically, hunting dry field ducks.
Yeah.
Which would not even think that's there.
No.
But
me neither. But
ducks are where you find them.
Evidently it is. And then how many articles do we have coming out in this off? Do you try to do like one a month, one a week? What's your rotation right now?
Now that it's off season, I'm cranking out. So I'm trying to do an article a week right now. And then there'll be a bunch of shoulder content, how-to videos, gear breakdown of our new First Light waterfowl gear, all sorts of different stuff in July with the Duck Lore launch that will be on themeateater.com, and really just a flood of waterfowl content coming.
It's that time of year again. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is. It
really is.
You get past the 4th of July, and some of these places are only less than 8 weeks away. So, and if you hunt in North Dakota, you're about 4 weeks away. But
yeah, for me, it's September 1, man. September 1 is when we usually kick off with early goose. So
start rocking and rolling September 1,
far.
and then you go all the way into March. So you got her licked. Well,
yep.
Very good. Well, we appreciate you coming on here. We look forward to all the great stuff that's coming from you and from MeatEater. And mid-July? Do we have an exact date on when we can find season 2, or is it just?
Yep. July 19th.
July 19th.
Yes, sir.
And it'll be on YouTube. How do you
MeatEater YouTube?
The MeatEater YouTube. How do you do that? Do you release the entire season at once, or do you release like an episode a week?
One a week. One a week. Yep.
One a week. Very good. And season 1 is on MeatEater's YouTube channel right now if you want to check it out, correct?
Absolutely.
Very good. All right, my man. Well, you keep crushing it up there. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. And if there's anything that we can do for you in the future, don't hesitate to reach out. I look forward to seeing everything that's coming out with you guys.
Yeah, it's good catching up with you guys. Been too long.
Yes, sir, it has. Been a couple years. Lots changed since then.
Sure has.
All right, bud. We'll see you later.
All right. Catch you later, Andy.
Bye. The end button. They got it under control?
Yeah.
What a debacle that would have been. Well, talk about 3 Mile Island.
Well,
They're doing a whole bunch of shit.
They're putting in new valves and something all over town. Well, they punctured the line right behind our house.
Right.
So it's fixed. So.
You know, you were talking about crooked politicians. I did not know. So we went to war under the Bush administration. Do you know who was in charge of rebuilding everything that we demolished over there?
Probably Halliburton.
Yeah, and
on a
no compete contract.
Yep.
No bid contract. Halliburton just got the job.
Why do you think we're in Ukraine right now, fucking with their shit? Same type of shit. Not Halliburton, but just the whole deal, the whole system.
So Bush gets Cheney as his VP.
Mm-hmm.
We go to war, and then Halliburton gets a no bid contract on rebuilding everything that we blew up in the Middle East.
And who's trashing Donald Trump as a turncoat right now? Liz Cheney.
Oh, Liz Cheney.
Yeah, because of her daddy.
Did you see the Freudian slip that Bush had
About
Putin having a non-holy war in Iraq? He said.
Yeah, he's.
And he's like, I mean, Ukraine.
George Bush can't go anywhere in Texas right now and can't draw a crowd of 1,000 people probably.
Yeah.
I mean, we have no use for his ass. Fuck him. Go back to Yale and go back to Connecticut or Maine or wherever you're from. You ain't a Texan anyways, you jackass.
But it's interesting how these things pop up. I did not know that about Halliburton.
Oh yeah.
It's a let me see. I had it pulled up here, the dollar amount. $600 million and growing. That was in 2015. Whistleblower exposes $7 billion no bid Defense Department contract that went straight to Halliburton.
Yep. I would love for Putin, who's got cancer now, they say, pretty advanced, I think. I would love for him to come out and spill the beans on our government and all the shit they've done, or China to do that. Let the American people know what kind of cesspool is in Washington, D.C.
I think it's just a cesspool on anybody that's in power.
Yeah, I think you're right, too. But, you know,
it's not exclusive to us.
TV shows aren't reality, but TV shows show you an opening of kind of what's going on. House of Cards showed what goes on in Washington, D.C. Pretty close, I think. Mm-hmm. When you watch The Wire, which I've only got a season and a half left, it shows you how shitty the politicians are in the big cities, too. It's the same way.
Right.
It's all about bailouts and people giving you money for shit, and they're all crooked. And the new white guy got elected the mayor of Baltimore. First time they think a white guy, and all he's doing is working to try to become governor. You know, it's just it's all the same way. And I've had it with politicians. I hate it. Can't stand this country we're living in on the way it's become, and it's a shame it has to be that. And what a change it's been over 3 years ago, our attitude towards everything before COVID. And the deep state is the reason we have COVID.
They look awfully confused in there, Jeff.
Yeah, they're having a little lover's tiff, I think, over wiring or some shit. And you know who's staying out of it? Me.
Me too. I'm going to keep talking until then.
Yep. No, I'm fixing to go. We got to go. I'm going to eat lunch. I got stuff to do today, too.
You don't have anything to do.
Got a great podcast coming out next week. This will be dropped on Monday. My friend James Steinbeck will be here Tuesday. Kid I went to high school with. Very successful. Owns his own trucking company now. Went to prison. Had some troubles in his life. Is a great story. Stands up for what's right and what's wrong. Is very honest about things. And we need more people like James. And he will be a good story. We'll have him on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday at 6 o'clock, we will have live YouTube with Jeff Jones of Shin Gear and look at all the new stuff they've got out.
I got a video from Mr. Trevor Austin. They got some new stuff coming out, too.
Well, we'll have to have them on the next week after that, maybe do another live YouTube.
It's going to launch Squad Fest.
Well, the day after, when they come back from Squad Fest, we'll do a live one.
I might have a sneak peek next week at some of these new things. So.
Well, good. Well,
pays to know people.
Yeah. I guess Trevor don't think of me enough to send me anything or let me know. So
you've got that beautiful call in there in the call case.
Yes, I do.
I'm going to put we'll decorate the new studio whenever it's done, and that's going to be behind me.
Well, good. We look forward to seeing all your stuff.
All my decorations.
All right. Thank y'all. God bless y'all. Have a great week.
Bye-bye. Check out all of our wonderful sponsors. Go check out Dive Bomb and start making your plans for attending Squad Fest, July 15th and 16th. Boss Shot Shells. It's not too early to order shotgun shells. Specific calls. They got some new stuff. Shin Gear, Waiters, Dirty Duck Coffee, Alpha Outdoor Specialties, Stanfield Hunting Outfitters, Bangtail Whiskey, Dirty Duck Coffee, Lucky Duck, Looking Glass Duck Club Podcast, and Gundog Outdoors.